So we are back. Peanut Gallery. We have ChatGPT up. What are we doing?
Well, we're going to do a couple of different prompts here, and I was inspired again by Wrestling Bios, who did the same thing for WCW.
Right.
And so what I thought is, why don't we do the same thing for TNA and right some of the wrongs of TNA? So I have a variety of different ideas, and I got a lot of inspiration. A lot of the word structure came from WrestleBios, who did a really good job with structuring the questions.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I got the inspiration from. Check that video out if you haven't checked it out. It is really good.
Okay.
But let's start with the first one, which is, okay, perfect. So this one is all about Eric Bischoff, Hulk Hogan, Vince Russo. So the prompt reads as follows. Not many people enjoyed Eric Bischoff, Hulk Hogan, and Vince Russo's time in TNA. Some say their ideas and storyline fell flat, and their style of Crash TV didn't work well in total nonstop action wrestling. I want you to come up with some storylines that could have saved Hogan, Bischoff, and Russo, some new ideas and some new angles that could have made this run a success. Be as detailed as possible, and remember you're competing with WWE Raw on Monday nights, because this was back when, this was very beginning when Hulk Hogan convinced Spike TV to move TNA Impact opposite Raw on Monday nights.
Right.
You are not taking sides and you're not overly competitive. You are only coming up with some fresh and innovative ideas that could have saved Hogan, Bischoff, and Russo and TNA as a whole. Your ideas must be new. You can't recreate storylines or reuse storylines. Everything has to be fresh.
So, and just for context, ChatGPT recognizes rosters from...
It does. Any time up to 2021.
Yes. So, it's, not the freshest, newest, but at the same time, it's still a fairly new program. So,
right.
Let's kind of see what it's going to do here. It might take a minute on what it will kind of give you.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's writing it right now. We did something similar for
a pay-per-view, right?
For a pay-per-view with certain rosters.
Yep. And obviously, we'll have God, what was it called? We'll have Tigerhite read the response since it's a little further away from me.
Right. Well, I turned it a little bit. I'm hoping that it helps a little bit.
Right. It's still going here.
It's still going. We gotta wait until it's all completed because it scrolls down as it goes.
Yep.
So even if you go up there and start reading, it just will hop back down.
Right, and of course we'll summarize it as much as possible doing this as well, just so we're not,
dragging this out for too long.
Right.
So, Ascension for the Young Stars. One of the main criticisms of Hogan, Bischoff, and Russo's time in TNA was the reliance on established stars and just neglecting to build new stars.
That's actually pretty accurate.
So for our first story, we have a new wave of young talent coming in, challenging the old guard. So very much similar to what they were doing.
Yeah.
But instead of the mix that they did with Hulk Hogan and Immortal, it wants to do the young versus the new.
Right. So again, that was actually tried in TNA in 2010, I believe, wasn't it?
Yep. There was a start of an open challenge for Hogan, and he's looking for the next big star in TNA. And it looks like it implies as well that they want to do TNA's X Division. And what I did like about the Hogan era, I'm pretty sure they'll mention it. And speaking of X Division, Option C was created during the Hogan era for the X Division champion.
Yep.
So maybe more of an emphasis on something like that would have been better instead of partway through the Hogan, Bischoff, Russo era. It looks like that they it really structures it like the older guard are only competing at pay-per-views,
right.
At least for the ascension of the
younger stars.
The outsider invasion.
This again is another one that they tried as well, with all the old WWE guys, people that were on free agency. Hogan actually tried this one too.
Yep, they did Immortal. They did there was one that was successful. Was the the main event Mafia, was that during the Hogan Russo?
No, that was before,
era?
but they revived it.
They did revive it. That's right. They looks like they want to do something very akin to the Outsiders sort of coming in. Now, I think that would have been interesting because keep in mind that the Outsiders were heavily implied that they came from the enemy.
Right.
So if they brought in people and made them a tag like they did with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash,
It
might have worked
There
better.
might have been some intrigue.
Well, they kind of did with the ECW guys as the what were they called? The EC or whatever it was.
Right.
It was stupid. Vince Russo and his infamous swerve booking. Oh, this is the Russo swerve.
Yeah. Which, again, wasn't tried in TNA, but this was done in WCW.
Right.
So maybe doing something like that. Russo wasn't... Well, here's the problem with Russo, though, is that Spike TV did not know that Russo was under contract. So there might have been some issues had Russo appeared on screen, but GPT doesn't know all of that backstage stuff.
Right, exactly. It looks like that they wanted to do something more akin to Russo being on screen.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read word for word on what it's telling me, but it's just sort of giving a higher, a higher implication. Russo tried to do this in TNA already with SEX back in like 2004.
Right.
So this probably wouldn't have worked as well as it wants you to.
And like I said, this was back when Spike TV did not know about the relationship between Russo and TNA.
Right. It looks like they want to make Eric Bischoff
and this
more
is
of a babyface.
Fourth storyline is Bischoff's. It's called Bischoff's Redemption.
So it looks like they want to make Eric Bischoff more so of a babyface authority figure against the heel Hogan and Russo.
That actually is one of those. Yeah, no, that's a very unique idea.
It is a unique idea. Well, Hogan did turn babyface, but at the very end when he left.
Right.
That's when he turned babyface.
Right.
So,
but starting Bischoff off and doing it earlier might have actually helped.
Yeah, it might have worked a little bit better than what
have
it
him be
did.
the benevolent sort of
these are only a
authority
few.
figure.
These are only a few storylines. Let's go to the next prompt here.
Okay, perfect. And this one is the this one is the Immortal storyline.
Yes. Let's see. Fans TNA, la la la. You go ahead and start reading it. Sorry, you are going to fantasy book.
Right. Okay, hold on here just a second. Where are you? There you are. Okay. There we go. Come on. I'm reading the prompt from my own GPT on here. So, all right. So you are going to fantasy book an alternative and better ending to the Immortal storyline in TNA. Fans say that TNA did not know when to end the Immortal angle, and the faction stayed around way longer than it should have. I want you to create a better ending to the Immortal storyline. You must be as detailed as possible when in describing your booking scenario. Let me know what happens to the members of the Immortal after the story ends, and let me know how it affects TNA as a whole. Again, be very detailed.
All right, let's see what it does.
And Immortal was around for way longer than it should have. And the biggest problem was that Jeff Hardy, who was the focus, was a heel, and he's not really a natural heel.
I actually liked heel Jeff Hardy.
He's not a natural heel.
Yeah, but once again, I think that was kind of a different one that I liked. Jeff Hardy is his own worst enemy.
Right.
And I think if he kind of kept himself clean and sober throughout that Immortal storyline, we probably would be speaking a different tone as it relates to a heel Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
He just kind of ruined it for him. That's the issue.
Right.
But, Bully Ray came out of it really well at the very least. So it's kind of going through right now. Hogan, Bischoff.
Yeah, we're going through the aftermath. So, again, this is a little bit more, but we're, again, just going to summarize. We're not going to read everything word for word.
Oh, it looks like they actually do something with Jeff and Abyss.
I mean, what we can do is we can put this in the show notes if you want to read the whole transcript.
Well, I can't necessarily put all of it because I only have a 5,000 character limit.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Duh.
So, let's go through this. So, as Immortal reigns continue to dominate, a group like the TNA Originals or some younger talent like Jay Lethal and Alex Shelley at the time would push back against Immortal.
So again, this would be another power struggle storyline.
Well, I mean, if you have a faction,
you have to have another faction.
Right, the turning point where they start scoring some wins and maybe a churn like Abyss, it looks like as well. Some tension between them, civil war where maybe the faction itself separates within of itself. The group splinters where one side maybe goes with Abyss and the other one is led by Jeff Hardy. Now, you see, that one would have been interesting because Abyss was one of the original originals.
He was.
Jeff Hardy came in, I think, in 2006, so he was kind of an original, but not really. The final showdown where both sides of Immortal, Jeff Hardy's and Abyss's faction versus TNA.
And this is a war game style match.
Right. Now, that would have been a really interesting one. Well, they did. What do they call it? They have a certain cage match that's very similar to it. I can't remember the name of it either. They haven't done it in a while.
No.
They have Hardcore War, which is kind of the same premise, except
but
they don't. Hardcore.
But TNA doesn't do, or Impact Wrestling doesn't do cage matches anymore. So
yeah, I don't see a whole lot of them. Do they?
No, they don't.
I can't remember last time there was a cage match. I think based on where it is, we've been to Impact shows, it would have been a pain in the ass to get all that together, you know.
Yep.
So aftermath here with that. So it looks like Hogan and Bischoff are, they are outcasted from their positions of power and are given some less creative control, such as commentators and managers. Jeff Hardy takes some time to sell injuries, and he asks for redemption from the fans and the roster, which happened, but it wasn't because of the injury. It was because of what happened at Victory Road.
Yeah, and we're actually going to talk about that one, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's going to be one of the prompts.
Great. Abyss becomes more of a protector of TNA, vowing to never let that happen again, where he kind of gets under the thumb. And, a lot of it is fairly similar because...
Yeah, and how did it affect TNA?
Let's see.
That little last paragraph right there.
It takes a hold on how Immortal was allowed to take such power. They implement changes, promising to give more opportunities to younger talents and focus on in-ring action. The end of the Immortal storyline.
That one was, overall, I think this would have been a better arc, I think, to end Immortal than what they did.
Well, I think of what happened with Jeff Hardy kind of hurt what the original plan was going to be for the Immortal storyline.
But let's talk about the debut of Rob Van Dam,
who was pretty much one of the biggest debuts during the Hogan era. Go ahead.
All right. So, there it is. RVD's improved TNA pay-per-view or debut. Rob Van Dam's debut in TNA was seen by many as disappointing. RVD had a lot of hype in free agency before joining TNA in early 2010, and actually... TNA wanted to get Rob Van Dam a lot earlier than he came in, but Hulk Hogan's appearance convinced him to sign that contract because he was on the independent scene for like 3 years up to that point. Yeah. However, the debut was underwhelming, and fans have come up with different scenarios on how they would introduce Van Dam to viewers. Please, fans, see book a new, better way for Rob Van Dam to debut and be as detailed as possible. Include other TNA superstars in the debut, describe his first promos and matches, and make his debut much better in comparison to Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan's efforts in early 2010.
All right, let's see what it does. You're right. Rob Van Dam was kind of loafing around on the independent scene a couple of years because I think he left WWE in 2008?
2007.
Oh, 2007.
Yeah,
okay.
and so he was on the independent scene for a long time.
Just because I think his, not his drug issues, but his pot issues were kind of there.
Yeah.
Still kind of.
It's still working. It's still working its way down here.
Still going.
Yep.
Do you remember what Rob Van Dam's actual debut was?
Well, when it was?
No. What?
Yeah, it was.
What
It was some sort of interaction with Sting. You wrestled like a 1 minute match, and then Hulk Hogan and Sting just wallowed him with weapons.
Oh, Sting was heel and Hogan was babyface.
Right.
And Hogan was trying to get in there to save
Oh,
Rob
that's
Van Dam
right.
from Sting, but Sting just kept hitting him with the bat. So, sure, let's do it. In the weeks of Rob Van Dam's debut, TNA starts showing some vignettes featuring high-flying moves and all of that. Who's the next big thing? Building anticipation and speculation for TNA talents and fans alike. On the night of Rob Van Dam's debut, TNA announces a special match, a gauntlet for the gold for the X Division champion, which fits perfectly with Rob Van Dam's style and immediately positions him as in the division as TNA is famous for. There we go. As the gauntlet presses on, blah, blah, blah. However, the passing entrant, the audience grows more
Anticipatory.
Anticipatory. There we go.
Jeez.
Waiting for. I've never seen that word spelled out. It's weird. Teasing of a new star. The last entrant, Rob Van Dam's music plays. Steps on the ramp, soaking in the moment. He delivers his iconic RVD hand gesture. Huge pyro go off. Rob Van Dam performs some high-risk moves and entrance, and ultimately winning the X Division champion in his debut match. Now, that would have been a really interesting way of getting Rob Van Dam into it, and also that would really have established the X Division as that premier division, because a lot of the guys that made the X Division what it was were sort of put in the main event scene, like Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe.
Right.
So bringing Rob Van Dam into the X Division probably would have been the best idea. After his debut, he defends the X Division champion with said people, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, showcasing a unique and dynamic style, high quality, blah, blah, blah. Rob Van Dam promos emphasize his respect for the X Division, his desire to make it the centerpiece of TNA.
Yeah.
He talks about how TNA is a place where talents like him can thrive, contrasting with his other promotions that might stifle creativity and athleticism. Rob Van Dam's debut and subsequent performances bring a new, renewed focus to the X Division, distinguishing TNA from other wrestling promotions, solidifying its reputation as top-notch in-ring action. Rob Van Dam's exciting style and charisma also draws in viewers, giving TNA a boost in the ratings war. His presence in the company attract high-profile talents, contributing to TNA's growth and competitiveness within the wrestling industry. In summary, the debut leverages Rob Van Dam's unique style, gives him immediate credibility with the title win, focuses on what makes TNA special, the X Division, and its win for Rob Van Dam, TNA, and most importantly, the win for the fans. That would have been a great way to bring in RVD.
Have him win a title.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the fourth one.
Not the world champion, the X Division champion.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice.
Which really, I remember at that time, that X Division champion really needed some TLC. So, all right, Victory Road 2011. Let's do it.
All right, Victory Road 2011 had a bad ending. Confusion amongst the referee, Sting, and whoever discussed the match backstage caused the main event to fall flat due to Jeff Hardy's condition. We all know what happened at Victory Road 2011. It was seen as a bad point in TNA, with some considering it the night TNA began to go downhill in terms of creativity, popularity, and dominance. You're going to fantasy book a new ending to the Sting versus Hardy match in detail. You may also come up with conditions to take Hardy out of the match and replace him with someone else if you wish. You're going to make the ending better, and it also has to be memorable. So
now, hold on. Before you do that, I think we should give another caveat to this, because I don't want it to change anything.
Okay.
You can't change Jeff Hardy's condition.
Right. Perfect.
So they can't say, oh, Jeff Hardy was healthy.
Right.
No, everybody's exactly where they were when this happened.
Right.
Let's see what it does.
Okay.
All right. So it's writing it out right now. I remember when it happened and being very confused, because I did not even think there was an issue with Jeff Hardy at that time. So, and I think me putting in there that you cannot change Jeff Hardy's condition was a great caveat to make sure that It doesn't
Right.
just say, "Oh, he was good."
Because they should have taken him out of the match. Like he should not have been able to participate. He wasn't. Was he the world champion?
He was not.
He was not.
He was not even the world champion. He was the challenger going into it because Sting won the champion.
Right.
January 6th.
Right.
When he returned.
Right. Okay. So that's what I thought. So yeah. Again, it shouldn't have happened.
No. So here we go. It became clear that Jeff Hardy's condition isn't in any condition to perform. Eric Bischoff changes storylines at this time, and fans were expecting, obviously, Sting and Hardy. Bischoff explains, due to unforeseen circumstances, Jeff Hardy won't be able to compete tonight. However, he reassures the audience that they will be getting their World Heavyweight Championship, and they found a replacement, a returning Kurt Angle. I'm not sure if he was out at that time.
I think he wasn't he? I don't remember.
I cannot remember. Angle's return would have been a surprise, and he would have had that programming. And obviously, that's right. He was kayfabe suspended by Eric Bischoff. Yes. It would have been a shock factor and made it a memorable night. At the very least, that would have saved it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sting versus Kurt Angle for the World Heavyweight Champion, back and forth contest. You can't go wrong with it.
Right.
Sting countering the Angle slam into the Scorpion Deathlock for the win, successfully retaining the champion.
It would have been a better match. It would have been a better match than what.
Yep. Sting, always a fighting champion, extends his hand to Kurt Angle after the match, solidifying his face status. The following Impact, Sting calls out Hardy, expressing his disappointment, but also he hopes that Hardy can recover. This sets up a future redemption storyline for Hardy. Meanwhile, Angle, feeling that he was robbed of a fair opportunity to prepare for a title match, challenges Sting in a rematch for the next pay-per-view, setting up the next main event feud. While the real-life situation surrounding Victory 2011 was unfortunate, this alternative booking maintains the integrity of the world title, provides a surprise return, and sets up new storylines, all while addressing Hardy's condition in a respectful manner. I think that would have been a lot better than what they did.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a rock and a hard place given the circumstance, and Kurt Angle may not have even been in the building.
Right.
So, but we did not give that premise in there because we wanted to make sure that it was the best situation.
Right.
So that would have been a great alternative.
Yeah, it would have been.
Even though it would have made no sense, but obviously Hardy's condition sort of put him out of it.
Right. All right, and the last one.
Yep.
One of the most embarrassing storylines for TNA featured Samoa Joe getting attacked and placed into a van by a group that seems to be ninjas. The angle was expected to have a big reveal since Joe was a former world champion. However, he just returned 1 week later without any explanation of what happened to him. So this was the famous Samoa Joe kidnapping storyline that went absolutely nowhere.
Right, and he came back with new gear and just did whatever he needed to do.
Yep. I want you to reimagine the storyline and give it a proper start, middle, and end. Include details about promos, matches, and other wrestlers who could potentially fit into the angle. You can also debut new characters if you wish. Be very detailed and remember to give a conclusion.
Now, keep in mind, they had to bring back Samoa Joe early because they were lacking strong baby faces in the main event scene. And instead of turning somebody, they just brought back Samoa Joe with that. All right. So
which was kind of weird because it was like, weren't you just kidnapped last week?
Yep. Mass assailants. I'm just kind of seeing what it does here.
Right.
Ooh. I'm liking this so far. It's very interesting. It looks like it almost wants to write a new, like literally like a new thing.
Yeah.
Like the entire thing.
Yep.
I kind of like it so far. It kind of looks Lucha Undergroundy, but I don't hate that, you know?
Right. Because he did come back with new gear. Wasn't that when he came back with like the face paint on and everything?
No, that was different.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that was different. That's when he was fat. So
that's when he was fat. Isn't he not fat already?
Well, I mean, he was like a lot bigger.
Right.
All right, we're just trying to get through here.
Because TNA did not do a great job with him.
No.
You know, storyline wise. So, you know, there we
go.
All right.
So, the kidnapping. Samoa Joe brutally attacked backstage by a group of mass assailants and loading him into their van, leaving cryptic symbol, a stylized dragon, hinting at their identity. For the next few weeks, TNA airs videos of Samoa Joe being trapped and basically tortured by a faction known as the Dragon Clan. The group of international wrestlers by a mysterious figure only known as the Dragon. So, introducing international people, that might be very interesting. Very TNA. In the videos, the Dragon Clan, they are not torturing, but training him, pushing him past his limits, and
testing his resilience, strength, and willpower.
Being a fighter that doesn't back down, promos that air of the Dragon praising Joe's potential and vowing to make him an unstoppable force. He sees Joe as a worthy adversary who deserves to reach his full potential. The return. Samoa Joe returns to TNA, but he has not changed.
No, he has changed.
He has changed. I'm sorry. More intense. He was.
Yeah.
He is a tweener, neither face nor heel, with a singular mission to dominate TNA, which is exactly what he was doing. Cuts a promo, reveals the Dragon Clan didn't break him, instead of waking him to be the true Samoan submission machine, and he has an open challenge to anybody in TNA. Meanwhile, the Dragon Clan begins to make their presence felt in TNA. They ambush wrestlers backstage, interrupt matches, spread chaos. The leader is... This leads to a series of matches between Joe and members of the Dragon Clan. Despite the common past, Joe isn't their ally. He fights with everything he's got, proving himself as one of TNA's top warriors. The final battle for Bound for Glory between Joe and the Dragon, a newly signed international star.
So maybe someone from Japan?
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean... what
they had the working relationship with Japan already. Might as well do something with it.
Well, then they could have come for one last match.
And then Samoa Joe won with the Conquista Clutch. And now keep in mind that the whole Dragon Clan thing was to push Joe. So
right,
and saying of the Dragon that Joe is a worthy adversary, this makes sense for it. And finally, following the victory, Joe becomes a bigger star in TNA. His resilience and strength have been tested, and he came out stronger. He moves on to challenge for the TNA World Champion, bringing him the intensity and drives the Dragon Clan instilled in him. The Dragon Clan, who, while initially villains, earn the grudging respect of TNA and its fans. They continue to dominate and setting up for future feuds with other TNA stars. In this reimagined storyline, Samoa Joe kidnapping is not as an embarrassment, but a turning point, leading to the emergence of a more formidable Samoa Joe and their introduction of a powerful new faction. Now, that would have been a lot better.
Yeah, that would have been.
Even if it was only that 1 week, at least do something. Now, the Dragon Clan is obviously extremely generic.
Right.
But we never gave it a premise on who they were.
Right.
Or why. So this is trying to plug in a couple of different things here. Now, you could have done something like you said with international, but the issue is that at that time, I know New Japan were not so high on TNA
but
because
of
what they did with Okada.
Right, but if they were given this storyline, I'm sure that they would have given them a shot.
Right. Maybe have Vince Russo fuck off before. So you never know. But yeah, that was it. Those were the only problems that we had in that very strange and embarrassing time in TNA. I think it did a very good job overall.
Yeah.
As it relates to most things.
Yeah.
Some things felt as they were the same, but I think it gave some new twists and turns that would have been a lot better.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was it for our show. Next week, we are not...
We're not doing a show
We're not
next
doing a
week.
show. We have family in town, so we will not be doing that. So the week after will be next time. And I'm not...
We're going to be covering the various pay-per-views
that we're going to be missing.
Happening.
So great. If you did enjoy this video, remember to like, subscribe. Let us know if you want us to continue with the ChatGPT thing. In the comments down below, leave a review, like the video. If you're watching us, subscribe to the channel or follow the podcast, become a patron, get some hats. All the links are going to be here and the QR code or down below in the description. And as always, be
majestic.